Hello, and welcome to the Craft Brewed Music Podcast, the official podcast of Craft Brewed Music, the app that streams better music for serious listeners. Here we explore and get to know the creators of that music. I'm Brian Horner, founder and curator of Craft Brewed Music, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host Aaron Stamen, a Craft Brewed Music artist. We've got Charley Hunter on the show this week, which is exciting for us, having been fans since our high school days in the 90s.
Not only was Charley Hunter an influence musically for us, teaching us a lot about the groove and about making music for a jazz funk ensemble, he taught us a lot about how to title songs. As I was doing some listening and enjoying such tracks as Fine Corinthian Leather from an album called Baboon Strength, I thought of our own offerings to the world with our band that was called Larry Mondello, with our album called New Car Smell, and songs such as Super Big Freak and Hans Gruber that he left other impressions on us as well.
A long legacy of less than intelligent humor, but hilarious. So we're excited to get into all that, but wanted to first let you know about a couple new offerings we have for those of you who may want more craft brewed music and who may want to support these artists. We've launched a patron program through Patreon with a couple cool benefits for $5 a month. There's a soundtrack episode, which is going to be 6 songs from the artist we feature in that episode, come out at the same time every 2 weeks. And then a second tier at $25 a month with merch throughout the year that you get. Also the soundtrack episode and what we're calling the Craft Brewed Music 6-pack, a sampler of miscellaneous artists from the streaming service. So you can find info on that at the link that's going to be in each episode description. And, email us if you have questions. And we hope that, that will hopefully satisfy your desire for more of this stuff, which we hope you have.
I think this is a great way to give listeners of the podcast more of what they want, which is more music, more discoveries. And I think this Patreon page is a great way to bring more music to our listeners.
Those benefits are going to start next episode 15, with singer-songwriter Emily Keener, which we're also looking forward to.
Let's get back to episode 14, which is the great Charley Hunter. Charley Hunter is an artist who has been making really interesting music for the last 3 decades. He's collaborated with numerous artists. He's collaborated with Norah Jones. He's collaborated with John Mayer. Collaborated with Mos Def. And he has numerous of his own projects that run the gamut from straight ahead jazz to funk to blues to these homage albums to great American songwriters. Charley Hunter is unique in the guitar world in that he has developed a style of playing on an instrument that he helped develop. And this is a hybrid guitar that features the bottom strings of the bass and the top strings of a guitar. It's typically an 8-string instrument. And he's developed a technique in which he's able to hold down the bottom end, either playing funky grooves or a walking bass, and play the chords on top, and then even solo while accompanying himself. And this makes for a extremely exciting and unique approach to the pocket and the groove that is a strong feature in all of his work. And it was a great opportunity to talk to him about playing and about music and about how he developed his technique on the instrument.
Our interview started with a comedy of technical errors, and we ended up switching to a different recording platform. So bear with us on the audio quality of this one. But I think you'll enjoy the conversation and the music all the same.
I guess I'm going to kick off the interview with a quote, which we don't typically do. But I thought this one occurred to me as I was listening to your music the last few weeks, and the quote comes from Ludwig van Beethoven, whom you may know. Upon hearing
that fucking guy.
Upon hearing one of his contemporaries play a piece on the guitar, he is quoted as saying, "The guitar is a miniature orchestra in itself." And the veracity of this comment has been debated. So I did a bit more research into it. It's only turns out to be just a portion of a larger quote. And so he goes on to say after that, he says, "The guitar is a miniature orchestra in itself. But moreover, I firmly believe that with modifications to the instrument and the proper application of technique, it could become Bootsy and Catfish in one."
Ha 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 ha. I know he knew Catfish. I'm not sure about Bootsy though.
I did translate it from German as well.
Yeah. Ja, aber ich kann Deutsch sprechen.
But the serious question in all this is, there has been a tradition in the guitar as a classical instrument, as a something that's capable of counterpoint and self-accompaniment. That as it became an American instrument, the Delta blues also kept several things going at once: a thumping bass and a melody, and the chords. Developed through Travis picking kind of a stride piano kind of sensibility to it. And then eventually one of my favorite things, which is the jazz guitar and these chord melodies and things that Joe Pass would do on the Virtuoso album. And I'm wondering, what point do you feel like what you do is just the next point in this evolution of the guitar as a self-contained miniature orchestra?
Oh, well, that's a great leadoff, honestly. And I totally agree with you with all that stuff. I mean, the guitar, it's a folk instrument, right? And so every different folk has their version of it, and it travels, and you can play full chords on it. And it actually has, even before I was messing with it, it actually does go down, to low E, sometimes D, sometimes C. It can get pretty low, so it's pretty self-contained instrument that travels. I mean, the other ones like that are the accordion, right, which never really took off in that way. Maybe the banjo, but it's always been, I think, at its best when it's kind of been occupied this kind of a crossroads where kind of driving rhythm meets kind of some melody, some harmony, and those things, the counterpoint of those, so all those styles you mentioned, yeah, totally. It all makes sense,
Were you ever an explorer of more traditional jazz guitar chord melodies, the kind of stuff Joe Pass was doing?
Of course. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, you got to know that shit,
So you cover the role of the guitarist and the bassist by adding either one or two strings. Was that
Yeah,
something
I mean, I guess,
yeah. Was that something that came about kind of organically, like you were hearing things and reaching for those things, and so you wanted to make those modifications, or was it driven more by some logistical reason, like, hey, I can save a hotel room if if I cover the bass part as well?
Yeah, I wish that was the case. It's just been nearly impossible to make money in this business, regardless. Even if you're playing the bass and the guitar parts, it's still any type of financial security has been pretty elusive. Um, so yeah, I mean, I just did it because I was just exploring it, and at the time, I don't know why I did. I just kind of did. It just seemed interesting and natural, and there was kind of all that kind of good. You could just be self-contained. I think I just liked that kind of part of it.
It did allow you to kind of move the scale, because typically the guitar is a folk instrument. Doing ragtime guitar or doing a Joe Pass chord solo. It has a certain scale to it that sounds really good when it's on its own. But you've expanded it where you can lock in with a percussion player and still sound big, and play it with an ensemble that's a larger scale than your typical self-contained guitar.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the whole concept of at least what I was trying to do. That's the whole um, concept. And unfortunately, it's like I love playing like just acoustic guitar, or I mean, I play with an organ player in town, just regular old kind of, I guess what you'd call kind of like jazz guitar stuff. But I just see it all as a part of a continuum. And this instrument, the bad choice I made was going with the bass end because it's so tricky and it's just so damn difficult to play. It just takes a lot of effort, which I love. I love practicing. I love all that stuff. But when I'm doing it right, nobody notices. That's the best part.
Well,
Nobody notices.
that's the truth. At the points where you're just like, oh my god, like the we're in the pocket now. If you're having a pure audio experience, like yeah, it's you lose the appreciation that the one guy is doing this whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess and I kind of got over that in terms of not wanting it to be about not wanting it to be about that so much as just finding like, okay, what's the opportunity? What can this thing do? And it can occupy this part of the music, and I'm able to kind of act as a hub, and the spokes can come out and from that, and I'm able to kind of make decisions to steer the music. And it's a lot like being a drummer, but it's kind of trickier because you have to deal with the harmony too.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, because you've had the opportunity to work with all these great drummers, and the your ability to lock in on the low end is pretty remarkable. And guitar players who dabble in the bass don't really get there. And I was caught wondering, did you spend time as a bassist before you got into this whole thing with the hybrid guitar?
Yeah, I played bass on the street when I was a street musician in Europe. I played some upright bass, and then of course, growing up, you're always going to be playing bass if you're a guitar player. Um, so and being around a lot of great bass players, and then also I think what was maybe even more important than the bass in a lot of ways was the drums, playing a lot of drums, and that's kind of a big. I think that's a large kind of component of what makes it work. You know what I mean? Because you got to have a good kind of solid grasp of time and feel and rhythm and where all that stuff kind of goes.
Yeah, yeah, and structure too. I think the drummers are great for that. Always keeping the structure in mind, no matter what's going on, moment to moment.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, bass players do the same thing, and my instrument's a little tougher because there's a lot of shit to think about. But, I'm trying to get to a point where I'm thinking about it less and playing simpler stuff that grooves better. Um, but it's not, the audience isn't going to go, wow, that guy's exploding. But that's not the point. The point is to make it the music feel good and do that, you know. I mean, shredding is not super difficult.
Right, right.
It just, you know, it's difficult to do it in time, you know, and with a good feel, you know.
Yeah, yeah. What kind of stuff were you playing when you were a street musician in Europe? I'm curious.
Well, you know, you're just gonna play, you know, no one's gonna stop. The thing you learn early on is that nobody's gonna stop for jazz. Like if I'm out there playing like my Joe Pass shit or pretending to be Tuck Andrews, nobody's, you know, three people will stop. If I'm out there with three other people and we're playing popular songs and we have vocal harmonies and dance steps, everybody's going to stop, you know. Lesson learned, you know.
Talking about keeping it about the music. It seems like there's a couple constants looking at, listening through your recorded career. One's groove and another seems to be the blues.
Uh-huh.
And is that if you had to pick a musical love of your life, would it be the blues?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I came up, you know, on my mom's record collection. It's definitely my foundation, you know, for everything that I do. But, you know, I grew up in Berkeley, California, so I heard everything from soul music to punk rock music growing up. So I'm conversant in a bunch of different stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely the bedrock on which I kind of build everything, you know.
There's a particular quality to your phrasing and your attack that's can be kind of aggressive and popping that I really dig. It kind of reminds me of the stuff that Mark Ribot does with Tom Waits.
Uh-huh.
And I really dig that. I've always like wondered what is it about your particular approach to phrasing that I find it attractive. And I think it's centered in an in an older blues aesthetic. And
Yeah.
listening to the Patton and Percussion album that Brian and I both really enjoyed.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like that kind of really illustrates that connection and that particular link in your playing to the past.
Yeah, man, you totally hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's like when I'm playing the guitar kind of side of things, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that, even if it might be harmonically a little more kind of futuristic, you know, or whatever you want to call jazz harmony. I'm still looking to phrase everything as if I were Charley Patton or Blind Blake or Son House. That's where you're exactly right. That's where the kind of phrasing comes from. And you know what? It's you just think about a guy playing acoustic guitar in a field and or a barn or a roadhouse and trying to project. You know what I mean? It's that kind of intensity that you kind of get from it, you know.
The kind of the melodic phrasing is one theme in that album, but the other one is this kind of the rhythmic drive that you got going, like with the first track, the Boll Weevil.
Yeah.
And that's we assumed that was kind of a modern reimagining of Charley Patton, but it turns out listening to those old recordings, like that thump and that drive is all there.
Oh, thanks, man. I mean, that's exactly what I was trying to do. you know.
There's a little boy we'll keep moving in this Lordy. You can plant your cotton and you won't get a half a day, Lordy. Oh, we'll find your little hole, Lordy.
Oh man, thank you so much, man. I did really work on that, and I did really take a deep dive into kind of the Charley Patton kind of universe, because I just feel like that's where all of it all comes from, the blues, that era, you know, all of the stuff that kind of we like or we listen to, you know, it all came from there, you know, and it really, he's really, you know, he's one of the kind of keystones of that, you know, at that time, you know.
And was that were those early recordings a part of your mom's record collection when you
Oh
were growing
yeah.
up? Hearing,
Oh
like,
yeah,
that?
for sure. Yeah, you know what the crazy thing about those recordings is, those aren't masters. You know the story about the Paramount record company went out of business in the Depression, and they sold all their stamp and masters to a chicken farm that used them to line their chicken coops. So all of those Charley Patton records and the other ones, they're just 78s that people digitized.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that gnarly? And that's why they sounded much better at one point, you know.
Interesting.
And the sad thing is the tunes that everyone loves are the ones that got played too much, you know.
Sure. I never heard that story. That's
It seems like somehow oddly prophetic as a use for albums.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah.
And the value we place as a society on that.
Exactly. Not profit, but profit, F-I-T.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Prophetic.
We're going to take a quick intermission for a word from our sponsor, which is us. Craft Brewed Music is a curated streaming service. It's the app that streams better music for serious listeners. Sometimes we hear that people want to hear more of the songs we play on the podcast. If you like what you've been hearing, you need to download the app and get a free trial. We'll help you discover music off the beaten path so that you become the person your friends turn to for recommendations, and we split our income with the artists. It's $5 a month or $50 a year, less than a latte. We're the small batch streaming app, available at the App Store and at Google Play. Or to hear samples and find out more about us, visit craftbrewedmusic.com.
You know, as we went through your substantial catalog of recording, Charley, and I don't know if Brian told you, but we did this exercise between the two of us where we decided, like, you know, there's like 25,000 albums we need to, like, you know, try to listen to try.
Damn, that's a lot. I probably listened to 100 total.
No, I mean just your music.
Oh, good Lord.
Just to like all 25,000 of your recordings, just to like, you know, we had a good idea.
Poor bastard. I think once you get past 10, it's time to call somebody.
Well, in order to like intentionally rein ourselves in, we decided we each make a song list that we'd see if there was any overlap. And interestingly, there was a couple things, including stuff off the Patton and Percussion album.
Oh,
But
cool. I'm glad.
but as we did our survey, one of the interesting themes that occurred to me was, I'd always thought about you as kind of a master of the groove and somebody who can keep a jam going for the other soloists, and to it seemingly like all the compositions would be composed around this groove. And yet, as we delved more into your body of recorded material, it appears there's an obsession with songs, with traditional song forms, more lyrical melodies, and indeed doing honor to some of the great American songwriters in the course of your recording career.
Oh, right on.
Which was, it was a revelation to me, because I thought like, oh, this is a groove guy. This is like a jam guy. But I came away from this listening experience thinking like, this is a song guy.
Oh, right on, man. I appreciate it. Well, I mean, you can't get away from that stuff, especially if you play with singers sometimes. You're gonna have to play songs at some point, and and I think it's important, even if you're like me and you're ultimately really coming from the blues, and that's kind of the foundation, you still need to learn songs, and you really need to learn a bunch of I love Billy Strayhorn tunes, so I'm going to learn them. Some of them. There's so many other great writers that I love, and it's just important to know that stuff, and to learn how to navigate those melodies and those chords, you know. Um,
Your selection of homages is quite diverse. We were remarking, it goes from Cole Porter to Duke Ellington to Bob Marley to Hank Williams to the Cars, and really it doesn't fall in any one rut on
yeah.
its journey.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just, there's just so much shit out there that you can kind of mine, you know.
One of my Brian knows this favorite listening experiences over the last few weeks has been the entirety of your Hank Williams album with Scott Amendola.
Oh, okay. Oh, right on.
In particular, Cold Cold Heart. I think that's a great, really delicate, sensitive approach to that melody, and I love that in the course of it, there's something very accessible about your playing, and and you kind of you feel like the person a little bit. And I like that it's matching that with, you can kind of hear you guys over the drum mics, I'm guessing, kind of hooting and hollering and carrying on like while you're playing.
Scott and I always have a good time, man, I got to listen to that again, because I don't remember that, honestly. God, I'm ashamed to say it. If I had to play that right now, I don't think I could play it, because I just don't remember it.
Well, one of the things I was caught, wondering with that one, it sounds very natural, and I know that you have the versatility to improvise out a melody and a chord structure well. When you approach a project like that, do you work out a lot of the heads and where the bass is going to go and how the chords are going to go, or do you just kind of let it fly?
Well, I mean, I think I just let it fly, as long as I know where it's supposed to go, I'll get there. You mean you're talking about in terms of,
I mean, like you like
physically on the instrument, how to physically play it, or just more in terms of the form?
Well, at least like for the head, when you're playing the melody, or you're doing like rock and rhythm, like the Duke Ellington thing. Like, are you spending time working out a format that's going to work for the bass and accompanying yourself and playing the melody, or do you just like, I know the tune pretty well, let's let it rip and see what happens?
It's kind of somewhere in between, because ultimately there comes a point where there's only so many different things you can do, but I still try to approach everything with as much looseness as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So at least you'll be able to improvise a little bit here and there.
Yeah, and Cold Cold Heart, if you get a chance to listen again, first of all, it's great. Secondly, it turns into like a blues song. Like,
cool.
Yeah.
Does it go like is it like
yeah, and you're kind of muting the melody.
Okay. Someone. Yeah, I remember it now.
Uh-huh.
What is it? Something like that. I can't remember. I can't really remember it.
We highly recommend
Totally.
check out that album.
Yeah.
Cool.
Charley Hunter's great.
It's available on all platforms.
Oh, listen to that asshole.
in addition to your your takes on all these songs that you play instrumentally, you could have, it seems to me, you could have easily stayed in that world as a kind of superstar instrumental funk, jazz, blues guy, but you've also done a lot of work with supporting singers, Lucy Woodward, Dion Ferris,
Sure.
producing and playing with Sylvana Estrada.
Yeah, and I guess Lucy and Dara Tucker and Dion Ferris. And I actually just finished producing and playing on what'll be the next Kurt Elling record, actually, that
Oh,
one
wow.
too.
Huh.
It's just a real uphill battle to play any kind of instrumental music. It's very, I mean, it's like even the people who get the most, bandwidth that are way above me, even for them, it's not really easy. It's like playing instrumental music is even if it's like real accessible, it's just kind of like looking for an apartment in New York with like 3 dogs, or you're gonna just not be eligible for 90% of the opportunities. And when you get a singer, immediately all those doors open up for you.
Yeah. So obviously you like songs, so it's not like you're doing something you don't like, but it's a practical
No.
decision ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's practical. It's also fun. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't do it,
Sure.
and things they all run their course and you're on to the next thing and who knows what it's going to be.
One of our favorite discoveries was the Lo Sagrado album that you did with Sylvana Estrada,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is a departure in some ways, and from the rest of your material. I'm very curious how that all came to be.
Okay, well, so Scott Amendola and I went down to Guadalajara. There was a kind of a thing called Tonica Jazz, and it was basically like they kind of took over this school, and kids from all over Mexico came for like a 1 week kind of jazz camp, I guess, for lack of a better term. But you had to teach an instrumental class, and then you had to teach your ensemble class, right? And in addition to playing a few gigs for the festival. So I got super lucky in that my ensemble room had a bunch of people in it, but 3 of them were from Jalapa in Veracruz province,
Mhm.
and or Veracruz state rather, sorry. And one of them was this young, I mean, she was 19. They were very young, Sylvana and Alex, the drummer, and Octavio, the bass player. They were very young. They were kids. And they just had such a vibe to them, really great, playing great stuff. And it was just fun to be around the young kids kind of because of the energy. And then they wanted us to play, they said, well, you need to play a bebop tune and a standard and a blues for the ensemble's performance. And when the guy left, I'm just like, look, you guys are Mexican. You have your own musical history. You know this shit. Let's not do that. Does anyone here have original songs? And they said, oh, Sylvana has original songs. And so we did them. I was just like, damn, this girl
Wow.
is great. She writes these great songs that kind of like are on the kind of in the middle of all this jazz harmonic stuff and also Southern Mexican folkloric music, and so then I didn't even know at the time that she played the cuatro either. I didn't know she had those skills. So when we were done, it was great. We really connected with them. And then I told them when I left, I was just like, man, I was thinking to myself, look, if somebody doesn't do something for these kids, especially Sylvana, nothing's going to happen. No one's going to do something for them. They need someone to take them to the next stage of their creative, lives, whatever that may be. And so it's just like, I kind of just like, yeah, it's going to be hard, but I have to do it. So my friend Chris Finney and I told them, hey, we're going to do something together. I'll connect with you and, whatever. So we connected over Facebook or whatever it was then. And I talked to Sylvana's parents and I said, hey, I'm a weird guy, but not the weird guy that's going to do anything untoward with your very talented daughter. And we just hit it off because her parents are like these amazing, they're luthiers. They make basses, cellos, violins, violas, like world-class instruments, people playing symphonies, you know. And I said, look, you know, Silvana tells me you guys have in your work area, you know, you have a space that we could possibly record in. Would it be okay if I came down with an engineer friend of mine and we just recorded this music, and then, you know, at least get her, I can offer that because I had points, airline points, and my friend Chris Finney, who's a great engineer in New Orleans, was game because he's an adventurer, you know. So we went down there and we hung with them for, I think it was about a week, and we just turned one of their extra workspaces into a recording space with whatever we had, and we recorded them, you know, and her songs mostly, and long story short, she was supposed to come to the States to tour, but because of the Trump administration and their immigration policies, they basically just weren't letting anybody in, so they denied her very pedestrian visa, which just allowed her to do this one tour. So she couldn't get in. She was really bummed. We were really bummed. But the silver lining in that cloud is it led the outrage of not being able to come into the country actually led a lot of people in Mexico to discover her. And then the rest is she just kind of shot up and became a real big kind of national treasure there, which I'm very proud of.
That's amazing. What a story.
Great story.
So is there the chance now that that tour can happen? Is that going to be revisited?
There was talk about maybe bringing her here for the North Carolina Folk Festival before the pandemic. So, you know, if she comes here, I'll definitely play with her. But she's great. We have a great time playing together.
So you had mentioned the organ trio is a recent project.
Yeah,
we were fascinated by that kind of choice as your new thing. Looking back, it seems like that's always been kind of a role you've played in the trio and the quartet. You know, kind of laying down the bass and like these kind of Leslie Speaker-esque, chords over top using your instrument, and fast, tunes like "Greasy Granny" back from the Bing 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 days, and "Bend Down Low" off Natty Dread. I mean, you're doing the B3 work. fast forward to modern day, and you're ceding the role to to the organ player.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's Sam's record, and what I'm trying to do now is do whatever I can to get a lot like I did with Sylvana, like I didn't play on her record. I mean, I played some like guitar solos and whatnot, but no, I wasn't like an integral part of that. But like with the local people here in Greensboro, I'm trying to do whatever I can to help them take their thing to the next level. And, it just so happens I can play regular guitar, and Sam Freibush, who's a great young organist. He and his brother Eli, they had to move back here from New Orleans, in the pandemic. So, we had been playing, I actually was playing drums with them originally, and I was just like, man, Sam is too good for me to be playing drums with him anymore, so I was like, Sam, I want to produce a record of you playing organ. Let's do these tunes. We'll get Jeff Clapp to play drums, and I'll just play, regular guitar on it. And so that's what I did with him, with my friend Darren, I don't know if I sent you guys that music, but he's a local guy who's a great kind of producer, songwriter, singer, rapper. I mean, I've been doing all this stuff for him where, I'll play drums and bass and guitar and percussion, whatever he needs to make the track work. I just did a record for this woman, Victoria, which was great. And I essentially did a very similar thing I did with Darren, but she's a very different artist. So, and they're all local and they're all great. And they just need an older person who's been around to just kind of help them get to the next stage. And I just sublimate whatever my abilities are to best realize what their vision is, So really the thing with Sam is not about me. I mean, it's fun as hell to play that guitar. And I forgot that I could even do that. You know what I mean? But it's his thing, you know what I mean?
So what was it like, or what's it like for you now playing, as you put it, regular guitar? Is that liberating or limiting?
Oh yeah, it's great. It's a whole other thing. It's like getting half my brain back, it's a whole other thing, but doing my instrument for all those years really makes it just makes you, hopefully not do as dumb shit on the guitar as you would do, because you're really connected to the drums and they're really connected to the groove of all that stuff. But I just honestly, man, I just see it as a continuum. Like if I'm playing some really old blues stuff on an acoustic guitar, it's all connected to playing like kind of like jazz stuff with an organ trio. That's also connected with playing drums on a hip hop track. That's also connected with playing bass, which I play plenty of regular bass for people too, which is also connected with my instrument, which is way harder than the rest of those instruments. And so it's kind of like you got to do all that other stuff to be able to play this instrument,
Thank you for listening. Craft Brewed Music, both the podcast and the streaming service, has the mission of promoting this music and these artists. We can't do that without ears on the music. So if you like what you've heard here, we're going to ask two small favors. First, tell someone about the podcast. Secondly, go to the App Store or Google Play, download the Craft Brewed Music app, and try a free 2-week trial of the streaming service. For more information, visit us at craftbrewedmusic.com. Thanks again, and see you next time.